welcome to Supernatural Selection. I'm your host, Kevin the Bastard. With me this week is a crunchy, munchy Mike the Skeptic.
Oh,
yeah, Mike, how you doing?
I'm a mouthful of popcorn.
Well, yeah.
I didn't eat dinner yet.
Okay, well, all right. Popcorn, Mike the Skeptic. It's Detective Popcorn. No. And with us, as always, is Mr. David Davis. David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, but I realize I need some sort of David the Blank.
David the Blank.
Yeah, we need some sort of filler for me there.
David the researcher, because you're the one that does the most research. Well,
David,
Kevin does a lot too. But.
Yeah, David the reader.
Or what about David the scholar?
Ooh.
Oh, I think that might be a little
fuck it.
too official sounding.
How about
Exactly.
Scholarly Dave?
David the nerd.
perpetually exhausted
Ooh,
from
David
reading.
the nerd.
Oh, there you go.
But
That'll work.
that we're all nerds, so
Yeah,
it's
but
like
still, I mean,
pots
you know,
and
I'm
kettles.
not technically a bastard, so,
I mean, well, no, I'm just kidding.
well.
yeah. Actually,
yeah.
I am. David, how was your parents' thing? Because I'm pretty sure I'm technically the only bastard here.
That's true. As far as I'm concerned, yes.
If your parent,
Yeah,
if you were born in
yeah.
wedlock, I was not. So I am.
I
a
was
bastard.
not born in wedlock.
You were.
So,
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
I was not.
So
we're
the
both-
bastard is
the
the
only-
only
the
not
only-
bastard. Son of a bitch.
Kevin needs a new name.
I do not.
Kevin the not bastard.
I'm a bastard.
Kevin
in
of the
other words.
loving family.
That's
Actually
that's a
not.
stretch.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a stretch, man. Loving is such a strong word for what my parents did.
I knew his parents. I'd call it more of a toleration.
Yeah.
Kind of a
Too poor to divorce.
resignation to their fate.
My family
Kevin
has
that
a
keeps
long...
the family together.
Yes.
Oh, man. Wow. Now I feel great. Okay.
Guilt.
Yeah, Kevin the guilty. So,
I meant your parents not breaking up out of guilt.
oh, right. Yes. Okay. That's fair. So, today, we have a great subject that we're going to tackle. But first, I had said that if you review the show, we will, in fact, read the reviews on the air. Now, we have got 6 reviews up on iTunes. And
Which is, I think, the only place that allows you to review podcasts like in the...
It is. It is. So, we've got 3. And I'll just go ahead and read these to you guys, and we can comment on them as we go, if that's all right.
Sure.
We're going to get this out of the way right up top, because I want to make sure people hear these.
Are you
All
going
right.
in any order specifically? Or
Just from top to bottom as they are in the document. So, Bobby 11D. 1 star. These 2 guys haven't read any books on what they're talking about, and then proceed to tell the listeners that the author is crazy or whatever. This show is not very good.
So it says these 2 guys, so that must have been from when it was just you and me.
Or me and David.
Or you and
But,
David.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's the Bob Lazar episode or the David Icke episode.
Which was both me. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they say we've never... Well, I didn't, obviously. But you have read...
I have read, or it could, now that I think about it, be Graham Hancock, which is also you and me.
Yeah.
I have read a lot of Graham Hancock, okay? I have attempted to read David Icke several times.
But I don't think in that we really directly talked about the book.
No, we just, that was just straight up his life story and character assassination.
Yeah. So I think most likely in order of what episode it was about, I think it was most likely about Bob Lazar, because he has like a lot of like people that like,
Believe him.
Like, put it to you this way, I was on a comedy website and someone posted a video of Bob Lazar talking, and like there was a flame war in the comments
Oh, yeah.
between true believers and people, saying, oh, this guy doesn't know shit. So I think that was the most likely. Then probably David Icke.
Yeah, because
then-
his believers are rabid.
Yeah, I can't see.
Yeah.
Graham Hancock having that many.
Because
true
also,
believer
I didn't really
fanboys.
shit on Graham Hancock.
True.
Because I'm a fan. I still read his stuff. I still find his stuff fascinating. But Ike is a danger to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. The next one is... Also, how you like that whole thing about us not doing research?
That's what I mean. It was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know,
I love the idea of David sitting here going through so many sources. Like, these guys don't do any research.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely someone butthurt about our topics.
Oh, yes. So the next one is Karuki! Exclamation point.
Yay.
1 star.
Oh.
Ah.
It's absolutely wrenching to listen to a pair of idiots ramble for clicks.
What clicks?
What clicks?
I mean,
You're already listening.
and also a pair, so this was, again, more than episodes from, more than a year ago?
Yeah. Well, a year. Yeah. It's probably, hell, it could have been an episode with me and David talking about big feets and sweaty men's or something.
Yeah, so...
Who knows? But yeah, older episodes, didn't try the new ones. That's fine,
Well,
Thank you for your reviews.
And here's the thing. A podcast generally, like 90% of the time, is a pair of idiots rambling. So,
Yeah. What podcast are you listening to other than, like, say, Unsolved Mysteries or Lore?
I dare say you're not listening to a supernatural podcast to get relevant and salient facts.
There's a couple I listen to that, yes, I am. But nonetheless, our last one, Spooky Dice Bag.
Woo.
5 stars.
Oh, shit.
This show is well researched, and the hosts are not only funny, but willing to call out the shortcomings surrounding many of these topics while being able to keep everything entertaining.
Well, that's very nice.
Thank you for that, Spooky Dice
And
Bag.
we in no way paid for that review.
Hang on, let me get my
Quiet,
wallet.
Mike, quiet.
I gotta get my wallet. No, thank you for that. I do appreciate it. And honestly, thank you for the 1-star reviews. I don't give a fuck. I've used the title of one of those as an ad. I have also said, like, I've been using it for advertising on Twitter. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean...
But yeah, anyway, thank you. Remember, if you leave a review on iTunes, we will read it on the show at the top. So everyone will know. So don't forget, 5-star review or you look like a jerk.
So based on these 3 reviews, we're at about a, what?
Probably a 2.
2.5.
2.5 star. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So, yeah, we're shit.
Weird. Hey, man. Hey, they listened, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they say they did anyway.
Yeah. So, that being said, David, this week it's one of yours, and we're talking about the dead internet theory, correct?
Yes, we are. The dead internet theory.
So this is something I know absolutely nothing about.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Awesome. Mike's going in blind.
Now, see, this seems like it would be a Mike subject.
I might be familiar with the subject matter, but I've never heard it framed as a theory.
Okay.
This isn't about the dark web, is it?
It's mentioned
really,
once or twice, but it's not really about the dark web.
Yeah, so, should I just go ahead and start diving into it?
Hell
Might as
yeah,
well.
man. Let's do it.
Okay.
Entertain us.
All right. So, as always, I like to talk about the research done because, like, we do read books and such like that. There aren't so many books on this subject yet because it's kind of like an online meme sort of theory right now.
It's also like a relatively recent development as far as the conspiracy theory world goes.
Yeah, because I searched, like, we have, like, at least 10 to 15 databases attached to the college that I work at, and, like, I couldn't really find much in the way of dead internet theory articles from, like, professional publications that are, like, peer-reviewed journals.
Right.
So unfortunately, a little bit more of the research here is based on like websites, but I tried to like, point out like, okay, well, obviously this isn't a great source, but it is, so on and so forth. So let me go and dive into this.
Yeah.
So I have many of them, and they're going to be made available in the outline we publish along with the episode. That being said, I have a handful that I want to mention up front because they are most important to shaping the overall narrative here.
Absolutely.
Now, my primary source for explaining the concept of today's episode is Caitlin Tiffany's Maybe You Missed It, But the Internet Died 5 years ago, published in The Atlantic in August of 2021.
And I will say I've actually read this article, and it's a great breakdown of the concept. So after the show, definitely check it out. Again, we'll have the outline linked in the show notes for the podcast.
Yeah, and it's probably the most influential article on this list because it kind of filters the raw insanity of the second source that I'm going to mention. So the article pulls heavily from a post in January 2021 on Agora Road's Macintosh Cafe by a user named Illuminati Pirate titled Dead Internet Theory, Most of the Internet is Fake. All right. So this post is generally credited as the first major published exploration of the concept, and I'm going to talk about that post a lot in this episode.
Okay, that's fair. I just want to say that as a new Discordian, I don't know that I can trust a dude with a name like Illuminati Pirate.
So another source that will play out more in a future episode, because again, I don't do these things like one and done. I tend to stretch them out because there's a lot to talk about. This article was fundamental to my interest in the overall topic, and it is James Bridle's Medium post, Something is Wrong on the Internet, from November of 2017.
Say that again.
And then lastly, I think as a great primer, I can't praise It's All Fake, the Dead Internet Theory by the Y-Files enough.
Oh, yeah.
This video was published in March of this year, and all hail Hecklefish.
Yes, I am a huge fan of the channel, and I'm just going to say it's always lizard people.
Lizard people.
The lizard people.
You're always on about them lizard people.
I know.
All right, so before we dive into this idea that the internet that we know it is actually dead, I want to talk about ye old internet, and that's old with an E at the end.
Ye old internet
Ye
shopping.
oldie internet shopping.
Ye old, exactly. So, I want to talk about the internet that was, specifically what we remember from the early days of the internet pre-2000.
Yeah.
So I'll go first. I'll talk about my first experience. So my own first exposure to the internet was web TV.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think around 1997 or 1998. I didn't own the hardware, but the family that watched my brother and I after school did have the hardware.
Okay.
So, for me, the highlight was being able to go to Nintendo.com and see if there were upcoming video game announcements, and then later I would try to get on the internet when I could, and I had like my first email address at 11 or 12.
Oh, wow.
Christ, I'm old.
I know. You make me feel like...
Because 97, 98, I was like 20, 21.
Yeah, I'm sitting here going, I first discovered the internet when I was a man. But I know mine was going to a friend's house and going to pretty much any URL I could think of because he had internet at the time. And this is around like 96, 97 or so. And one of the early ones I used to go to was Joel Hodgson's Gizmonics.com when it was the Ant site. And it was like a black site with white text and graphics, and it was just done like an ant farm. And you would, like, quote, crawl through the tubes to get to the different pages and everything. And he said I did it, and it said on the site, we're making black on white so you're not getting shot in the face with a cathode laser constantly. And but I actually got online myself in 99 or so because of Yahoo Chat, which is sad and old. And then I discovered webcomics by accident. And it's funny, I typed in thundercats.com, and for some reason that one time, and only that one time, it redirected to sluggyfreelance.com. And I'm still actually kind of friends with Pete Abrams.
Oh, we should have him on.
I will have to contact him and see if he has any interest.
There you go.
So Kevin and I have very similar experiences because we were, friends at the time and probably went to the same friend's house.
But
I think we both kind of got our first real computers at the same time too.
yeah, I think we both got them from Scott, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We had a friend that was he was in IT, and like as a side hustle, he would take kind of older equipment and refurbish them, put windows on it.
He'd jigger it.
Yeah, sell it to his friends. So like I had a 200 megahertz Cyrix, not even Intel CPU, a Cyrix processor.
Yeah,
running Windows 95, and ooh boy.
I remember when somebody we knew got a 1 gig hard drive, we lost our shit.
Dude,
shit, dude! I remember that sort of thing.
No, I think my first hard drive was like 500 megs or something like that.
Mine was like, like 250 or something.
So early on, like before the 2000s, I actually started like getting on eBay and shit, and I got my first. I think one of the first upgrades to that computer was a Quantum Bigfoot hard drive, which was like I think it was 3 gigs or something like that.
Oh, yeah, no. You were the hot shit.
This was a hard drive that was like the size of a CD-ROM drive. Mm-hmm. It was a, 5-inch hard drive. And, I was, going on eBay and downloading a lot of Quake mods that I never actually played.
Uh-huh. And let's not forget friggin' Napster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, going on Napster, when peer-to-peer was the new...
Mm-hmm. And we still have some of those fucking MP3s.
Oh, yeah, I still have a lot of MP3s from back in the day. But yeah, no, if you don't remember, or anyone out there has never had to deal with dial-up, man. Those were the dark times.
Oh man. That's triggering. That's triggering.
You get online, you're like, I'm going to download a picture. Now I'm going to go to the store, and maybe it won't choke up by the time I get back.
Pictures weren't so bad.
At my house with a modem that was struck by lightning.
Yeah, no, so Kevin had really shitty internet for a long time, and even, we never could figure it out, and it turns out that he had some weird old-ass phone lines that were just strangling his dial-up connection.
Jesus.
He would get, it was supposed to be a 56K modem, and he would get 12K or something really pathetic.
Yeah.
And even after replacing that modem, it was still bad. I think they eventually had to replace your whole run, their run.
Dude, they had to replace the trunk.
Oh, the trunk, really?
Yeah, they had to replace the trunk out on Terry Road. It's ridiculous.
So. Yeah, so porn for Kevin at that age was...
Porn didn't happen. I was still using fucking JCPenney catalogs.
Well, I mean, porn for you in the early internet age.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's fair.
You wanted to look at a porn image, you would start the download and go,
turn the monitor off and then go do something.
Take a dump and then come back and hopefully it's done.
Yeah. This just got real.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking of words we could use to trigger the olds who listen to this, Netscape Navigator.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dial-up internet. IRC.
You've got mail.
Oh, God.
GeoCities.
Angel Fire.
Ate my balls.
News groups.
E-Bombs World.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God, yeah.
You feel old yet?
Yep. Well, and I'm a later internet generation. But not by much.
No.
Yeah, no, not by much. You were there, God, I mean, I met you way back when Drunk Duck was new.
Yeah, I think probably around 2004.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah. So, we have our experiences. We remember the internet of old.
Yes.
So, let's talk about what the internet is, or at least what the intention of it was.
Yeah.
Now, I am working with Brief History of the Internet from InternetSociety.org. And, The history of and the development of the internet is pretty complicated, and there's a lot of depth to it.
Yes.
So I'm not going to get everything.
No.
Spoiler alert: I'm not covering every single thing.
This is a brief overview.
Yeah.
A brief history of internet time.
Yep. But the first concept of a network of social interactions that would lead to the internet was it was put in a series of memos by J.C.R. Licklider.
Okay, that's a really...
Licklider.
Let's go with Licklider because that's funnier.
Yeah. I think it would be looking at the spelling.
Licklider.
Yeah, okay. So J.C.R. Licklider wrote these memos back in MIT in August of 1962 under the term of, he called this thing a galactic network. And it was envisioned to be a global network of connected computers where data could be exchanged.
Okay, so everybody remember, when we time travel into the past, this is the guy you kill.
Oh, no. I think he ultimately did us a good, but that's probably changing.
Yeah.
Give it another 10 years before we decide if he's on the time traveler's hit list.
Okay, that's fair.
So, Licklider was the first head of computer research at DARPA in October of 1962. So in August, he publishes this memo at MIT. Mm-hmm. By October that year, he is now the first head of computer research at DARPA.
Well, someone saw his publications and thought, this is a man with a vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was at DARPA where the internet would begin to take shape.
So this is early 60s. So, we're talking like a handful of computers at the time.
Yeah, like 5.
Yeah, probably, well, a little more than that, but it was still like every major...
colleges.
Yeah, every major college probably had a big mainframe. And, there were a couple of government mainframes. Mm-hmm. The big agencies all had their own. And so, a network of those is not... I think the only real...
It's not unfeasible.
It's not unfeasible except for... I do remember seeing a thing about, the creation of the internet. One of the big things is coming up with actual interconnect hardware because you got to think, these computers, they can talk to each other in the same room. But when you're talking hundreds of miles... There's a lot more of a challenge. Like, there's a reason when the first interconnect was phone lines, because one, it was already there, and two, it was, relatively easy to make a computer talk over that versus, what are you going to do? Run dedicated data lines, which we finally did.
Now, well,
but at the time, different. It was kind of a crazy idea.
Why would you do something that foolish?
So I wonder what I would have to read this thing to find out what their actual interconnects were, because I'd be pretty interested in that. Maybe just like backbone telecom stuff, maybe. I'm interested in reading that now just to find out what it was.
Well, there's a link.
Yeah, I know.
I think we'll cover a little bit of that in here. Not in too much depth and everything like that, but all right, we're going to skip forward a few years to 1967. Mm-hmm. Okay. ARPANET.
Lots of hippies, too.
Yeah. Yes, at MIT and the like. Okay, so ARPANET, not DARPA.
ARPA.
Yeah.
ARPANET was beginning to form, with the first official node on the network arriving in 1969 at UCLA.
Oh, yeah, hippies.
So 5 years to, basically build out or, conceptualize and start building a at least nationwide network of some form.
Mm-hmm. And it would begin with college campuses and universities. And, there were governments as well. And I think within the next decade or so, you started having like major businesses start kind of developing their own connections. So at this time, what we may consider the internet was a centralized series of protocols, but it became important that for this to expand, multiple independent networks of different designs would need to be able to interface, thus the Open Architecture Network.
Is that what ARPA stands for? Or what? Okay.
I don't necessarily know what ARPA, as far as the difference between ARPA and DARPA, I'm not quite sure.
I think it's the D.
ARPA is
obviously it's the fucking D.
Yeah. Well, it's the Advanced Research Project Agency, but the D, I believe, stands for...
Defense?
Defense, yeah. So,
Okay.
So ARPA is basically, includes civilian projects
Okay.
where DARPA is all about military.
Okay. Neat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Of course it's the fucking D, you asshole.
It all comes down to the D.
Everybody wanted the D.
Okay, so what we see as the World Wide Web, the polished, with like quotes around that, viewer-friendly interface for exploring the internet, was developed by Tim Berners-Lee at CERN in 1991.
Right.
This is also where hyperlinks first appeared, allowing for data to be accessed much more readily.
And I want to throw in, we should probably mention the influence of Douglas Adams here. Because a lot of early internet terminology, including hyperlinks, came from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and also, Monty Python. There's a reason it's called spam.
Well, I think that mostly comes from the fact that it was created by nerds.
Yes.
And nerds had read Douglas
The Hitchhiker's
Adams.
Guide, yes.
And so when they
Absolutely.
were creating, a network protocol, they were like,
It's like the
the
guide. It's like the
sub-Ethernet.
sub-Ethernet. Yeah, it's like the sub-Ethernet. Yes,
the
exactly.
Ethernet.
Yeah, so when we're talking about the difference between the internet and the World Wide Web, the internet is just like that, network, and then the World Wide Web is what we're actually seeing.
So the
internet is what the web is on.
So the internet is the hardware, basically the actual nuts and bolts of the network.
Yeah, the network, the computers.
The World Wide Web is the software, basically the websites,
The front end.
the browsers and all that. Basically, all the data. The internet is the hardware. The World Wide Web is everything else, all the user experience and everything.
Yeah.
You never really see the internet. You see the web, technically.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's when people talk about the dark web, what they're talking about is like the stuff that you don't normally see on the World Wide Web, because it's like looking into like the internet side of things where it's just raw databases and stuff on networks and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So dark web is basically just, you go into your browser, right? And at the address bar, you can type in, from there you can get to anything. That's the World Wide Web. The dark web is basically you have to go through secure portals to get to basically there's multiple dark webs. Tor is the most notorious one.
Right.
Which I have to say, I saw an article today that said Iranian usage of the Tor network has jumped by like 800% in the last week.
Oh, I bet.
Because, they have actually set up dedicated Tor nodes for Iranians to get on because their government is blocking access to the regular web.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a cool implementation of basically what a lot of people think is just something for sex and drugs.
Not that it's not used for that, but still.
Obviously, but that's just, that's humans. We'll use, heck, the early internet before there was really, any kind of oversight or the ISPs give a shit was used for sex and drugs.
Yeah, are we going to talk about
Silk
ASCII
Road and
boobs?
stuff. Well, I'm just talking about like Silk Road and, there were like some early sites that were like basically, what's the term I'm looking for? Not prostitute, but the nicer version.
Escorts?
Escort
Escorts,
websites and stuff like that.
I wish Encrypt was on here today because he could tell us about downloading ASCII porn.
Oh yeah, ASCII porn. I've
from
heard.
BBSs.
Luckily, that was
that was gone by the time we got.
Yeah,
there.
I just had highly dithered GIFs of and I say GIF. You can bite me if you were a GIF person.
Tell me, do you believe in
GIF
Jod?
person? If you're a GIF person.
So do you believe in Jod?
Yes, and I also believe in giraffes.
Or giraffes, if you're one of them assholes.
Yeah, giraffes. But no,
let me go water my geranium.
Yeah.
This is a Jud joke.
Yes, of course. I mean, look, to my thing, it's like if you understand what someone's saying, it doesn't matter which way they pronounce
Agreed.
it.
Yeah, I know.
So, calling the 91 version of internet as polished, I also have a little.
Well, that's why I put quotes in that.
Yeah. It was very raw and Wild West.
It was nice, though. I enjoyed it.
I I mean, in a way, but you couldn't find shit. Like, unless you come across, like...
We had Alta Vista.
Yeah, that was
It wasn't
shit.
until Google kind of redefined the search algorithm that like the internet... Yeah,
there's a reason everybody flocked to Google when it first came out.
It
because
worked.
Yes, it worked. It was better than fucking... Remember, were those web rings?
Oh,
Or
Christ.
Gopher.
God, I miss web rings, dude.
Yeah.
Well, you know...
Let's make a web ring.
They were an interesting, you know, social experiment, but as far as finding anything...
I mean, technically, so is an orgy.
You'd have to find the first node on the ring to even finding that was, you know, you happen to be, you know, on a BBS or a forum or something.
But what if you Googled a web ring?
Well, you know, in the early days, yes. But, you know, web rings just kind of farted out once Google was
that's
standard.
that's the joke.
Now, should we be calling it Jugal?
Jugal.
It is Jugal. Wait, that sounds kind of anti-Semitic. Let's move on.
It does. Yeah, let's move on from that.
Let's skip. Oh, God.
Okay, so as far as we consider the internet to be, it has three components as explained in a Vox article titled The Internet Explained by Timothy B. Lee, published in 2015.
A little late for that, I think.
Right. So what is dubbed the, quote, last mile is how we are talking right now. This is the connections of homes and small businesses to the internet. This includes the cable companies providing access and the towers for wireless connection, that sort of thing.
Okay. The
Now,
last mile being the thing that connects to us.
Your home internet or your,
Yeah.
you know, cell phone.
Right.
Your
Now,
data
the
plan.
the next level down would be the data centers that host the sites and apps. I'd argue where this is most of what we consider to be the current internet to be, because this is where the most of our ideas about like the idea of regulation and standards comes into play.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me know if this sounds like bullshit, but this is what my understanding of it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Lastly, at the deepest level would be described as what we would call, quote, the backbone, which is the long-distance connections between data centers and consumers and these larger networks that connect.
Right.
So I have I think this is a little an obtuse way to put the connections. I would say, one, it leaves out your, like, I mean, you have the last mile, but the last mile is part of the network. You can think of it as two parts. You have the computers and you have the network. Your computers are your computer and servers that hold the data for websites. And then the network is just everything that connects the two, be it your last mile connection or the backbone. I think they're all just kind of one thing.
Right, but this article is trying to like put it into like little...
Yeah, but I think it compartmentalizes a little too much.
Okay,
Because, I mean, you could separate your device and the servers as two different devices, but I think calling the last mile and the backbone separate things, because the backbone isn't just one thing, because there are multiple... That's the problem with... what was it where there was a big thing about, you know, Netflix, the prioritizing different data packets. The backbone, there isn't just one backbone. It's multiple backbones controlled by multiple companies. And one of the things like several years ago was a problem was there was worry that certain companies could pay to have backbones prioritize their data over, other data. So like if, say, Netflix wanted to, pay major backbone providers to have priority access to the backbones that service, most of America, for instance, they could easily squeeze out up and coming players in the, space. So I'm trying to think, what was the legislation that really fair use? Not fair use. No, there was I can't remember now.
I remember what you're talking about. I can't remember the specific one for the life of me.
Net neutrality.
Right, net neutrality.
Yeah,
That's
what net neutrality was all about, is that every packet on the internet, and a packet is just a bundle of data. That's how you send and receive data on the internet. It's packet.
All packets are equal.
You can think of it as an envelope. in the envelope is the stuff you're sending. Your computer basically packs it up in an envelope, sends it off, and when it gets to its, and everything in between doesn't care what's in the packet. It just ignores the packet and hands it off, just like, the mail does, until it gets to the other home, your destination.
Or it gets to Jackson and it gets lost.
Yeah. But so, and net neutrality basically codified that all packets are created equal.
Which is interesting. It was interesting because that's one of the few legislation things about the internet that actually worked and people followed it. Because we're going to find out that there's no real authority over the internet.
Yeah, and so that basically obviously legislation like that only covers really its jurisdiction. It's the country it's in. So that net neutrality for the United States only covers providers and companies that are in the United States or doing business in the United States. So, all the backbone providers. But a lot of other countries also passed net neutrality. But, and in their instances, and also that covers the links. So, say, America has net neutrality. Okay, so not America, United States. Because, be specific here. United States has net neutrality, and say France has net neutrality. That means all the internet connects between those two countries are also neutral. But, any connection from the United States to, say, China, obviously they're free to do whatever they want. So they, the Great Firewall eats all data.
Right. Now, speaking of governing bodies, David, you were going to move on to that, I think?
Oh, okay, sure. So, because of this decentralized network, the internet does not really have any regulatory bodies and anything but spirit. Any connections and standards are voluntary, given an FCC issue or two that develops.
Right.
So, the best sort of answer to who runs the whole thing that we can muster is the Internet Engineering Task Force, which is an open organization that makes suggestions. Generally, their guidance is accepted, but the data centers and cable companies are not forced to listen to this organization.
Right.
Now, secondly, there is the Internet Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers, also known as ICANN.
I've had to deal with these people as a webmaster.
They are generally responsible for the distribution of domains and IP addresses, but that's about it. They're basically just kind of giving you an ID number in the larger network so you can be found.
So, traditionally, both of those were American-based, but there's been a lot of, obviously, international, as more and more countries, the internet became more central to their, their livelihoods. They've had more of a stake in the internet, so they've moved to be more included in it. I mean, I guess ideally, those two kinds of organizations would be completely international, but,
Yeah.
At least they seem to be, both of those seem to be not for profit, I guess.
Yeah.
Or at least they're consortiums where there's so many players that no one ideology seems to be able to, force it in a direction.
Right. And also on top of this, I just want to throw in that I don't want to really get started on domain squatting. But that's how I've been most familiar with these guys. ICANN is because one of my domains from when I was younger expired, and before I could even try to re-register it, someone is now squatting it for $3,000.
Well, that's less of ICANN. That's
I know.
That's the
But
policy of basically if your domain expires.
I know. I was the dipshit in this situation.
Heck, I think
that
was one once. I even told you, hey, your shit's expiring. You should probably renew it. And you're like, I don't care.
Yeah, I think
now you miss it, don't you?
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, so, word to the wise, don't let your domains expire.
And I have not.
There you go.
If you don't think you're using, because generally they're pretty cheap.
These days, yes.
Even back then,
it was real cheap.
Unless you have a really popular one. ICANN itself is cheap, but if you get a squatter, that's when it gets expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, a third organization is the World Wide Web Consortium. You might, if you've ever done HTML or CSS or anything like that, you might think of W3C.
Yes.
Especially if you're trying to learn how to do those internet programming language.
Oh, God.
They're a lot like the IETF in that they can make suggestions, but nobody is really forced to adopt them.
it's still in their best interest. It's mostly the ones that have to worry about that are like the makers of browsers.
Yeah, and I think Tim Berners-Lee is also partly responsible for the W3 consortium.
He is. And like I said, it's the browsers, and it used to be a lot more of a problem than it is now, because Internet Explorer was much more compliant with that. Well, actually, no, Internet Explorer wasn't as compliant because, like, in, say, Netscape, you could have flashing text. Mm-hmm. But Internet Explorer ignored that tag.
Yeah, I remember every time I'd program a website, I just have to have some sort of like workaround for the Internet Explorer engine versus like everything else, because Internet Explorer always seemed to kind of like lag behind.
Yeah, and that's still kind of a thing, not as bad, but you still have to like double check your compatibility with different browsers.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, what we know as the internet, especially from a while back, was basically like a frontier.
Yes, it was very Wild West-ish. It was quite insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we had a lot of... there were no laws. You could do pretty much anything you wanted. And everybody had a website.
That would have been a great, T-shirt. There were no laws on the internet back in the day.
There were no laws, and everybody had a website.
Exactly. So what's going on with the internet of today?
Well, I know it involves a lot of stepbrothers and sisters.
You need to reset your algorithm, my friend.
I really do. I'm just saying it's got a lot of, people getting stuck in dryers. I don't know.
It's the corpos, man. The corpos got us by the balls.
Is this a reference to some William Gibson stuff?
Well, the corpos are a cyberpunk
okay.
aesthetic, but it's basically the corporations. They realized they could make money, so they started buying chunks or staking out chunks of the internet.
Right.
Not really. I guess they did buy some of them, but also they like Google, they just set up, their own section that became popular and used that to grow their, mind share.
Mike, you're actually pretty close on this.
Yeah.
So we are kind of talking about like the heart of cyberpunk, especially when it comes to like networks here.
Yeah.
So as for where we are today, I'm going to quote from an article titled 404 Page Not Found. The Internet Feeds on Its Own Dying Dreams.
Shit.
Written by Kate Wagner for The Baffler in 2019.
The Baffler just sounds like a guy that breaks into your fucking bathroom.
Okay, so quote. Writing in 2008, the new media scholar Geert Lovink separated internet culture into 3 periods. First, the scientific, pre-commercial, text-only period before the World Wide Web. Second, the euphoric, speculative period in which the internet opened up for a general audience, culminating in the late 1990s dot-com mania. Third, the post-dot-com crash, post-9/11 period, which is now coming to a close with the Web 2.0 mini bubble.
We need to pour one out for the pets.com dog. The sock puppet that even had a wristwatch on. I'm just saying, if we're going to talk about the .com bubble, we need to pour one out for pets.com.
Did you know who was the voice actor for the puppet?
I don't.
Michael Ian Black.
Holy shit! From the state?
Yes.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
For those my age, this tripartite history of the net begins at number 2 with the anarchic, sprawling 90s net, followed by the post-9/11 pre-iPhone variety, including the blogosphere and the fulcrum moment that was MySpace, and ending with today's app-driven hyper-conglomerate social media net.
So, I would argue that a lot of the old internet is still there. It's just all the, what would you call that? So up until the mid 2000s, you basically, if you were on the internet, you were a nerd of some form. You were a geek. You were not. You're in some ways even slightly technically inclined. Mm-hmm. So once the iPhone came out, it basically democratized access to the internet. And it basically destigmatized it too. So everybody was, online.
Your grandma is online.
Your grandma, your favorite celebrity, and everything. So, but there's still those corners out there. I don't think they replaced the old internet. I mean, in some ways, those things died out. Some of them did, but they brought new bits to the internet for better or more likely worse.
Well, I don't know if this person is claiming that like it's been replaced, but the idea is that these like app-driven hyper-conglomerate social media sites tend to try to lock you into an ecosystem between these adjacent apps.
Like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
But I would say most of their users are, not old web, would not have used the old web anyway. I'd say 90% of their users are, this grandma or, the popular girl that would thought, touching, a computer is like a nerd thing.
Well, it's funny you say that because based on this theory that we're going to talk about, that's probably not the case. They're probably robots. So, yeah, we'll discuss that.
Yeah, we're going to get there.
So I, Kevin and I, me more than Kevin, I think, have pretty much constantly used Something Awful's forums since the early 2000s. And while younger people aren't coming to it as much as they used to, it's still a pretty vibrant community. They call it the Dead Gay Forums, but they're not that dead. And
they're not that gay.
Well,
it sounds like a retirement home on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
It's a retirement home for people that you really didn't want to run into in the old internet, actually.
But I mean, I guess this kind of fits into the subject because Something Awful was the
progenitor.
The progenitor of such things as memes.
Yeah.
Memes,
and Let's Plays. I mean, Something Awful kind of fathered and mothered the early internet and the modern internet.
I think the only part of the new internet that replaced the old internet would be Reddit. Reddit took the place of a lot of forums.
And like
and 4chan. I would say 4chan as well.
Yeah.
The Chan board in general.
Hey, you want your mind blown? Do you know why 4chan and in turn Reddit exist?
Because they were people who jettisoned off of Something Awful.
They were banned.
Low tax banned people for posting LoliCon.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's where Reddit came from, but that's definitely where
Reddit came from 4chan. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Reddit came from people that couldn't hack it on 4chan.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and move us forward here a little bit because, so I'm glad that we're all very passionate about the subject because, there is something very wrong with the internet, and at least the three of us can see this.
Absolutely.
So today's internet feels less like an assemblage of oddities and more like a guided tour through curated experiences where we begin to experience things in cycles.
And this is very much like what you would get if you got on the internet in the old days via an AOL browser.
Mm-hmm. And I would argue that's just the new internet.
Yeah.
If you go off the rails.
Yeah, no, if you were to throw the spear and get off the thing where they're singing Whalers on the Moon, yes, it's still out there. But for the most part.
The Wild West is just, underground now.
No, nobody's saying like the old internet is gone. It's just instead of webcomics, it's known as Webtoons.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and quote Caitlin Tiffany from The Atlantic. This is that article that I said was kind of the main operator here. So, quote, most weeks, Twitter is taken over by an argument about how best to practice personal hygiene or which cities have the worst food and air quality, which somehow devolves into allegations of classism and accusations of murder, for which whatever reason is actually not as offensive as classism anymore. A celebrity is sorry. A music video has broken the internet. A meme has gotten popular and then boring. Benifer might be back on, and no one's more excited than Twitter. ! At this point, you could even say that the point of the theory is so obvious, it's cliched people talk about longing for the days of weird web design and personal sites and listservs all the time. Even Facebook employees say they miss the old internet. The big platforms do encourage their users to make the same conversations and arcs of feeling and cycles of outrage happen over and over, so much so that people may find themselves acting like bots, responding on impulse in predictable ways to things that were created, in all likelihood, to elicit that very response.
Yeah.
So, I just once again think that a lot of the stuff they're talking about are just your average mensch that, you know, in the 90s and early 2000s weren't on the internet. You know, they're simple people. They have very simple. They have simple needs and simple thoughts.
Well, okay. I mean,
and their thoughts are about Bennifer and, you know, which city has the best food.
I mean, I can see where you're coming from with this.
So when everybody's online, it's obviously the signal to noise ratio is off. Like in the 90s and early 2000s, there was a high signal to noise ratio. There's a high signal with very little noise because, you know, people kind of respected the medium, I guess. They, you know, it was hard to get on there, so there was a lot of respect for what it was about and what it represented. But now the noise is way out there because everybody can get on there. You know, get your, you know, iPhone and your, you know, $40 a month data plan, and you're online. 12-year-olds are online, you know. When everybody's online, the noise is just massive.
Well, and part of the reason for that is that, you know, back when the internet was, back in our internet that we're thinking about, it was less commercial. Now the internet is driven by commercial
yeah, but
impulse.
I think that's a chicken and egg thing in that the commercialization of the internet happened because there was so many eyeballs now, and not the other way around. No one's getting on the internet. Well, okay, not nobody. Everybody's getting on the internet for, you know, Facebook, not even Facebook, Twitter and TikTok, and that shows how old I am when I think people are getting online for Facebook, but they're not getting online for fucking Facebook. It's TikTok and Instagram and all this other shit that I've never really used.
Look, I'm just gonna say it. Screw you guys. Everybody, go and start up a new Angel Fire website. I am actually on Angel Fire right now. Go start an Angel Fire site.
I thought you couldn't make new sites.
Yep. Well, I don't know. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But I'm on my old Angel Fire site.
I'm one of those people that believes everybody, like, no matter who you are, should have a website.
I agree.
Like, it costs, you know, maybe like less than $20 a year to have a website. Use it as an extended business card, that sort of thing. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But no, I like the point that you're making here, Mike, because part of this theory is the idea that there are sinister forces who have worked to shape the internet for the lack of a better term, the layman.
If you're talking, if you mean by sinister forces, you mean fucking capitalism, sure, why not?
Yes,
that's
because
all it is. It's just money.
Yeah.
No,
like,
nobody's saying it's not.
It's not like, oh, I'm going to corrupt the internet because I want to take over Moldavia. No, it's
aliens.
capital. It's money. They want money.
Actually, yeah.
And it's not even it's not even people. It's corporations, which are this weird hive.
Well, corporations are people.
Legally,
the U.S. government has already claimed it.
That's a problem. I'm not going to get into it right
let's
now.
not talk politics right now.
I'm not going to get into that ruling. I can't remember the name.
Yeah,
of it
fuck that ruling though, and let's move on from that.
Okay. So the internet, if it is to be considered a collection of human knowledge and experience in the most optimistic sense, seems to have failed in that regard and has fallen into this kind of era of repetition.
Right.
You know, every year there's something about Mercury in retrograde, the supermoon, murder hornets, that sort of thing.
Dusty's former boss, like, when Mercury was, quote, in retrograde, she made everyone's life a living hell because Mercury was in retrograde. And I'm like, you're making it happen.
Well, and here's the thing. Every time I hear about fucking Mercury, it's because it's in retrograde. I never hear of when it leaves retrograde, but all of a sudden there's like a bunch of people saying, oh, hey, Mercury's in retrograde. I'm like, what?
When's Mercury in prograde? Because that's the opposite of retrograde.
I know.
Right.
I don't know.
and you know what retrograde is?
That's
it's in orbital dynamics. It's when it's moving away from. We're moving, away.
Right.
Not towards.
Yes.
So if you're in orbit and it's in orbit, it's moving away from you.
Okay.
Instead of towards you.
And it gives you the bad vibes.
And it gives you the bad vibes, apparently.
It shits on your juju.
Is it because, you miss Mercury and you see it slowly moving away?
Bye-bye,
so
Mercury.
Sad?
I don't see... It's fucking Mercury. Fuck Mercury.
I don't think that'd be a good idea, because I think the liquid metal would get in your pee hole.
It would, actually.
Unless you're a Chinese emperor, then you drink it to live forever.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it feels like the internet's kind of fallen into this kind of like repetitious sort of...
It's in cycles.
Yeah. This is because in a network where no standards can be upheld by like regulatory action in general, standards are determined by influences, and this is usually in the form of corporations.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and corporations, they have one thing. Money.
Right. So the corporatization of the internet is single-handedly responsible for the sweeping changes in the internet of our youth, and the internet of today is going to factor into this larger dead internet theory. So a lot of this is based on the theory revolves around the idea of corporations. Governments, of course, as well, but mostly corporations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at any government internet website, it's atrocious, and the government really has no idea how to internet.
They got no style game.
Nope.
Yeah, the corporations learned how to internet because they saw money.
Mm-hmm.
The government just was like, I make website. Here you go.
What if all corporate websites were legally forced to look like the old Space Jam website?
That'd be awesome.
Yes. Okay, so another thing to take into account is the larger iceberg concept of the internet. What we see is only a small portion of the total network activity that makes up the internet, and much of that activity is automated processes, back-end databases, and bots.
Well,
are you depressed yet, kids?
Well, so, yes, there's a lot of, back-end shit, but that's... Just because that's a major part of the traffic doesn't mean that's a bad thing.
No, of course not.
There's always been a lot of protocol with the internet. I mean, heck, nodes are all constantly talking to each other to let them know they're there and how to connect to them, and that's the whole DHCP thing, right? They're always constantly housekeeping and making sure that everyone can talk to everyone else. So,
right.
The overhead, we call it the overhead, basically the traffic that is used to keep the internet healthy is one thing. And then, using, all the financial transactions, because at work, when we lose internet, we can't process credit cards anymore because, all that shit goes over the internet. So that's a lot of stuff too. That's a lot of the data, but
right. Well, and then what we're going to be diving into
bots,
the internet, the theory right here, but specifically again, a lot of the internet is considered to be this unseen thing. Well, yeah. And that's where the anxiety comes in, especially when you think about automated processes and artificial intelligence.
That's cuckoo banana boats, but I'll talk about that once you talk about it.
Well, we're moving into it right now.
Let's do it. Let's get and now that we're an hour into this, let's get to the dead internet theory.
I think there was important stuff to cover, though.
Yes, no, I completely agree. I just think it's funny how passionate we are about this subject.
So, as for what the dead internet theory is, here is the most laconic version I can come up with, pulled from my sources.
Right.
The dead internet theory is the idea that vast portions of what we assume are human-produced content on the internet are actually created by artificial intelligence in conjunction with organizations to create a method of social and economic influence. Now, I said the most laconic version I can, and if you've listened to any of my episodes before, you know I could be a little bit verbose here.
They have a lot of what you call it, faith in what AI can create.
Well, I was gonna say you've got like a lot of like $2 words. No, I'm kidding.
No, you know, it's one of those things. So, and we're gonna talk about AI because, okay. So, long story short, the subject is going to be approached in 2 episodes.
Right.
We have this episode, and then I'm focusing specifically on the AI component in the second episode.
Yeah, this is just laying groundwork, and the second one is where we actually get into some of the specifics, right?
Right. So I quote the Atlantic's article summary of the forum post that we're going to pull some evidence from. This is Caitlin Tiffany again. Quote, peppered with casually offensive language, the post suggests that the internet died in 2016 or early 2017, and that now it is, quote, empty and devoid of people, as well as, quote, entirely sterile. Much of the, quote, supposedly human-produced content you see online was actually created using AI, Illuminati pirate claims, and was propagated by bots, possibly aided by a group of, quote, influencers on the payroll of various corporations that are in cahoots with the government. The conspiring group's intention is, of course, to control us, to control our thoughts and to get us to purchase stuff.
Now, even if this isn't true, I do think you should look at anything online from an influencer as suspicious. Possibly even us. I'm just saying.
So my thoughts are you don't need AI to do this shit.
No, but bear in mind,
sure
this
helps.
is a guy's theory.
Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of what he's saying is not untrue. It's just you don't need AI to create influencers.
Well, but here's the thing. The AI is the fun part because that's what makes it spooky.
That's what makes it science fiction.
It's the new hot buzzword because, you know, everybody's talking about AI, but AI right now can barely string together coherent sentences, and
that's what they want you to think.
If you feed it enough data points, it just becomes racist.
Mike, how do you know David's not AI?
I don't, because I've never met him in real life.
See, I haven't either.
Exactly. I could be like
AI.
that Google robot.
Oh,
Yeah,
you are the
guy
Google
who
robot.
The guy who dressed
Lost
like a
his
Batman
job.
villain.
Yeah, and lost his job because he wouldn't shut up about, I think the robot's alive and it may be in love with me.
Steampunk McAquarium guy?
Yes.
Yes.
Dragon Convoy.
So with all this in mind, I want to cover some of the evidence suggested in the thread by Illuminati Pirate.
Now, Mike, remember, this is evidence.
Okay.
Evidence.
I will treat it with the highest level of scrutiny.
Okay.
Should I get a spray bottle for you?
Yes.
Yes, please do. All right. You know, Mike, have a couple more drinks first.
Look, I'm like almost done with this rum and coke, so I'm already pretty.
I feel like I need a rum and coke to deal with you dealing with this.
I'm as cushioned as I can be.
Okay.
All right. Now, the first thing I need to point out is that while I pride myself in finding academic sources in most episodes I write, I'm going to be relying heavily on what appear to be seemingly insane ramblings of a 4chaner.
Where will we be without deranged children these days? Can I just ask that?
Exactly.
Children? Come on, it's a 4chaner. That's
Okay,
not a
deranged teenager.
No, that's not even that's a
Neck
deranged
beard?
like 30-year-old.
Okay, fair. All right.
So, the origins of the theory, based on what Illuminati Pirate posted, originates from 4chan's X-Board and Wizard Chan.
Okay, just because of this, you don't get an X gonna give
wait
it
a
to
minute.
you this
so
episode.
is this whole episode is just X giving it to us?
It is.
God damn it. I've been catfished.
Oh my god.
Obviously, given Chan culture, most of this stuff could be seen as trolling or as a dumb joke, but elements of what Illuminati Pirate posits here struck enough people to merit some real discussion on the idea that the internet may be dead. So,
mostly dead.
Mostly, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so already seeing at this, the fact that they're a 4chan person and thinking the internet's dead. Yeah, this is a disgruntled something awful forum member.
Probably
Disenfranchised.
Disinformation agent.
Oh yeah,
probably in the initial ban wave by Low Tax. Actually, we'll talk about that. So.
Yep.
Illuminati Pirate begins by giving us his credentials in that he was fairly active on the internet prior to about 2007 during that post.com bubble period.
Right.
So he
like early days of 4chan.
He joined something awful just after the September 11th
like I did.
attack. Yeah.
Because he wanted to see tribute.avi.
Yep. He thought that was the height of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So he then posits the internet feels empty and devoid of people and content, which, naturally, he blames on corporations and governments. However, he then launches into a series of claims that may feel pretty familiar to many of us.
Okay.
So
yes.
It's devoid of content. I mean, okay, he could say it's devoid of quality of content, but the internet is currently generating like terabytes of content a day.
AI is.
Well,
but what he's getting at there is that the content that's being generated is just variations on a theme. You know, he mentions the idea of like there's always a supermoon article, there's always a murder hornet article, there's always someone who's being canceled on Twitter for some thing that you could probably classify into like 5 different categories, that sort of thing.
So he's never like listened to people before, or he definitely never watched like his local news, because the local news is just the same shit over and over again. Someone was robbed, someone was killed, there's a pothole somewhere, this company's bad, here's a puppy, that's your local news over and over again. And the internet is just kind of the same shit because it's
I'm with you on this a little bit because he does seem a little socially awkward. Not like trying to character assassinate him, but like he even mentions it in the discussion.
Well, I'm just saying that a lot of younger people probably, like I said, I don't anymore watch the news. So I can't blame younger people for have never watched the news.
Yeah.
And especially the news nowadays, I think is probably a way different.
Well, once the 24-hour news cycle kicked in.
Not only that, but once the big corporations started buying the local networks.
Yeah.
Because have you ever seen the video where...
it's the same...
It's the same like promo thing, but from networks local
all over
stations
the country.
all over the country. They're saying the exact same script. It's like that was frightening to me because I remember when the local news was like a thing you could trust.
And you had
that was Sinclair Broadcasting that did that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was definitely them. I have no qualms. But then again, like I said, it comes back to big corporations.
Yeah.
Right. I can't doubt that big corporations would create, AI to like turn us into mindless mush-eating zombies, but I don't think that's happened yet.
Well, let's see his theory first.
We'll get there. So one of the first observations he makes, regular contacts vanishing completely. He lays out that he had a solid number of contacts across different websites, but those contacts eventually vanished, and he argues not necessarily from a change of interest or people kind of just drifting away, but a complete abandonment, as he describes as a vanishing in a puff of smoke, like the shutdown of a program. This connects with another observation he makes that fake people are out there. Again, he's not entirely wrong here, which we're going to explain.
Now, alternately, he might just be an asshole and tedious to be around. And they ghosted him.
Oh, so, I mean, I kind of understand that, but I've also, when you say that, I think of when the Goon Grand Theft Auto group, I was pretty active in there. And then just one day, I just stopped. I don't know. I didn't make a decision to do it.
You just quit. You just, a week later, you realize, I quit.
Look, okay. I literally put like hundreds of hours into playing with these guys. And I don't remember why. Maybe I was just bored. Maybe I was just like, it just kept going, I'll play tomorrow or something like that. I just stopped.
Yeah. No, it happens.
And those people probably thought I died. you know.
Yeah, I mean, I played Genshin Impact for like 2 months every day, and then I stopped because I'm like, I can't do this treadmill anymore.
But when you
it's the same thing.
But there were people on there I knew, at least not by first name, but knew by handle, you know, and they knew me when I would join the
they'd say
voice
hi.
chat or something. They'd be like, "Oh, hey, Mike, you know, how's it going?" Because I went by Mike NLN on pretty much everything by this point. And so they'd be like, "Hey, how's it going?" You know, and then like I said,
then Mike just died,
and I died. I probably died to them, just because I guess I had gotten everything I could out of it, and that just happens though. People, he thinks, you know, it's weird. People don't just vanish like that. It's like, they kind of do. I mean,
or he's an asshole.
I'm pretty sure this guy has, you know, communities he was involved in and just kind of like dropped just because.
You know, I don't know that he does.
Well, I mean, I'm sure
he could just be weird.
I mean, you'll have to go through the thread for like some more stuff, but like it is something I think that's very relatable, and it's kind of like an uncanny thing that you experience, because I was going through like some of my old accounts in different places and seeing people. It's like, I've never heard of that person since.
Yeah, no,
like,
I've
spent
got the
so
same
much time
thing.
talking to them.
It feels like, I can understand, like on the surface, it feels like, oh, you know, you had this rapport with someone. Why would they just stop? But you realize it just kind of happens. Like even in real life, like there's friends that I don't think I've talked to in like years.
Yeah.
And it's not like any kind of conscious,
you just fall out of talking to them.
It just happens.
You drift apart.
I stopped, you know, we stopped hanging out or whatever. And it wasn't never malicious. It was never a conscious decision. So I think, you know, this speaks to maybe a naivete.
Yeah, when we are talking about someone who ended up writing this very long post about the idea that like the internet is dead and controlled by robots.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on to the second observation here.
Yes.
So his second observation is algorithmic content. This is a bit more about a rant on the quality of media that we consume these days.
This is what you were talking about earlier.
But Illuminati Pirate poses that fiction has become sterile and templated. He suggests that modern fiction is being manufactured by artificial intelligence, which is not necessarily too far off base. You know, like the idea of the Netflix algorithm that determines, like, we're going to greenlight such and such.
It's, I mean, I guess it's not being manufactured, but it's definitely being influenced by algorithms.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it artificial intelligence.
Well, we will talk about the manufactured thing in the next episode, because I do have some interesting stuff regarding that.
Yeah.
So, you know, you just try to keep a little bit of an open mind on this one.
Right.
But, you know, then again, he also goes on to praise Moe anime as having heart, so I think he's probably just a big weeaboo.
I mean...
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, all right? We're also living in a world where most scripts and books are based on a formula from a book called Save the Cat, which is about screenwriting and storytelling, and you can figure out where a movie is going beat for beat if you know what to look for from that book.
Happens to me all the time.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Every modern screenwriter has read that book and they write based on that. And it's the same with a lot of storytellers and content in general being influenced by that. So, yeah, it's all kind of sterilized and formulaic now, but yeah.
Well, I mean, so I can't, the anime thing, embarrassingly, I can't say he's completely wrong. I have thought for a while that at least anime storytelling has a very deft ability to pull on the heartstrings somehow.
I will shove Steven Universe down your throat, goddammit.
I haven't watched it, okay? But I'm not saying American media can't, but I think it's more rare in American media where, you know, we're more for the cool and the, you know, big, you know, spectacle instead of the emotional connection in you know what our media portrays. But
I'm just thinking we're gonna have to record like an anime discussion episode, because like I can talk about this for a long time.
This is Patreon. We'll move on, but we will come back to that.
But I see where you're getting at.
But yes, no, I've all along now said that, you know, our current stuff is way too safe. Like,
but moe anime, really?
Well, I won't say moe anime. I'm just saying, a lot of anime in general. But I mean, American media is too safe because it's too corporatized. It's all
almost like an algorithm.
No, it's not. It's not an algorithm. It's just okay. So it's a biological algorithm. Not even a biological.
Are you saying
algorithm.
It's horny?
No, I'm saying that a corporation is a very weird entity because it involves people, but it involves people acting against their own self-interest for the good of a fictional being, an entity.
Okay, I mean,
did I just like blow your minds or something? It got real quiet.
Not really. I just don't know what to say.
I mean,
yeah, I mean,
what else can you call people who make the decision to, basically make other people's lives hell, but it's in the name of money?
Americans.
No, it's not just Americans.
Sounds like those fat cats on Capitol Hill.
It's a lot of Americans, but there are other companies and other nations that do the same. It's just more prevalent in America because we view, monetary success as the best of
Sounds like maybe you're talking about the lizard people.
I'm not talking about the lizard people.
No, because I don't think the lizard people care about money.
The lizard people care about money and
they
our
care
bad
about control.
juju.
They hoard the money like dragons.
This is getting into we're getting back into Jugal again. What's your last thing?
Okay, so the last major point that he brings up is that the internet is often different among observers. He points out that the internet you see on your smartphone is different from the one you see on your PC. Specifically, he mentions spending a few days looking at websites between these two platforms and noticing that at irregular intervals that the content will be completely different on the same website across the two platforms. Now, I buy this less, but I am noting it because the idea is interesting, and I believe it could be possible for an algorithmically generated content to slip up periodically.
Now, this is one I buy into. Because here's the thing. Facebook on my PC, I see nothing but posts from my friends with the occasional ad. And on Instagram too. If I'm on mobile, every fifth post is someone I actually know, and everything else is a recommended post or an ad. Like 5-6 posts in a row, and then like somebody I know.
Yeah, I would say this is probably the most valid of the points, but that's just, tailoring content because, like I said, someone that's, exclusively online through their phone is probably more of a superficial internet user than someone on their PC.
We'll have to create an elite internet user sticker and shirt.
Oh, yeah. I like the elite interneter. I'm glad that got brought up, though, because I'd been thinking about it for like a couple of weeks, and then you brought it up, and I'm like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
You can trust me. I'm from the internet.
Yes.
Now, from this point on, Illuminati
Sorry,
Pirate...
I just swallowed a gnat.
Was it good?
What?
Was it good?
God, no. Let's move on.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Holy shit.
So from this point on, Illuminati Pirate tends to go into conspiracy overdrive.
Oh, now he does.
Mm-hmm. So he establishes a timeline that leads to somewhere about 2016, 2017, when he says that AI takes over the internet that we see today.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to go over that timeline real quick. There's a few items.
Oh, please do.
Okay.
Yes,
so his timeline...
I'm loading my disapproval gun.
He has a scornful face loaded.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So his timeline begins in 2004 with the folding of DARPA's LifeLog project. Or was it actually folded? Facebook arrived in 2004. Mm-hmm. Now, have you heard of the LifeLog project?
No.
This is where they basically look at everyone's online activity, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we see it playing out today in some interesting ways. But I have a link to the to a reputable source about it and everything like that, so you'll be able to kind of look and understand what the LifeLog project is. But I'm going to go ahead and move on. So, from 2004 to 2012, the NSA may have picked up some of the former DARPA project, spinning it into the Total Informational Awareness Project that was meant to fight terrorism.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Well, I mean, everything post 9/11 was, to, quote, fight terrorism.
That's true.
But, taking this DARPA project, which, the initial impression of it was to kind of build a profile to a person's entire life based on data on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, considering that a lot of 9/11 planning was done in some form of online, it makes sense that, NSA would take a thing that's meant to profile online users and use it for their own goals.
Absolutely.
Right, so this makes sense so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't argue with any of that logic.
All right, so in 2012, 2013, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act was modified by Congress to allow domestic dissemination of government-produced programming within the United States, which Illuminati Pirate suggests legalizes government propaganda.
I thought government propaganda was already legal.
I don't think it was ever illegal.
It was definitely more regulated. Was
it?
Yes. You'll have to look up the information on the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, but I have a link there from northwestern.edu that kind of explains what the act was and what the difference was.
Okay. Well, also, if you're hearing a noise in the background, one of our cats is attempting to dig to China in a box. Now,
you damn cat.
Also, not to get all hecklefish here, but I'm buying this so far.
Well, I mean, so it's just saying that the prevented the U.S. Department of State from disseminating government-produced programming within the United States over fears that the agencies would propagandize the American people. Mm-hmm. Which, I guess makes sense, but, of course, they'd want to get rid of that because, why wouldn't we want to propagandize to the people?
Damn straight.
Sheep?
Mm-hmm.
The sheeple?
Yes.
All right.
So from about 2012 to 2016, Illuminati Pirate suggests that any DARPA and NSA contracts were then given to private companies such as Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Now, I had a hard time digging up some articles about these contracts, but the association between the NSA and tech giants is a known thing, so I can see this as plausible. I just lack the sources at this point.
I mean, sure. I mean, just like any other... So here's the thing. The government very rarely does anything themselves. They're always contracting with private companies. Mm-hmm. So just like they would contract with a private company to build a bomber, they're going to contract, if they want data shit, they're going to contract with a data company to do that data shit. They're not going to build the systems themselves because like I said, the government doesn't know shit. Mm-hmm. They don't have the manpower or the brain power to build these systems in a vacuum. Just like they can't, build a 5th generation fighter jet all by themselves. Not to get into the whole military industrial complex.
You forgot the word alien.
No, there's no aliens.
There's aliens.
No aliens. Only illegal aliens.
No, there's the other kind.
But so yeah, of course they're going to partner with existing tech companies.
Again, this shouldn't really be new information to us, but the timeline he's laying out is showing that there's this connection between private corporations, governments, and these original DARPA internet projects. And he's kind of showing how more and more of this is being controlled by corporations.
So it's fairly plausible so far.
But like a lot of conspiracy theories, they lay out some plausible groundwork and then tack the crazy on the end.
It's
right?
It's like a writer to feed children that has, and we can bomb Iraq.
Well, let's get into this further. So in 2016, Google started work on a concept called Selfish Ledger, which we got our first hints of through leaked memos in 2018. Now, we can do an entire episode on Selfish Ledger, maybe as a mini-sode or something, because this is a scary one.
Really?
Yeah, I would suggest looking it up.
Now, is this around the time where they took the "Don't be evil" thing out of their mission statement?
I thought that was more recent. I thought that was more like 2018, 2019.
Well,
and then 2018 is when those memos of Selfish Ledger leaked.
Okay, well,
and I guess the best way to describe Selfish Ledger is Google was trying to create an algorithmic like life guide to kind of like modify human behavior. It's very strange. Yeah, it's very creepy.
We'll do a mini episode or a Patreon episode on that because that needs a dive.
Well, so, yeah, I mean, it's looking like it was a future project. They didn't have this operational in 2016.
But it's the thinking of it that's the disturbing part, according to Illuminati Pirate. It's the idea that, like...
No, I can see that.
Yeah, like it's not something they were actively programming, at least not based on the memos, but like who knows? They were
looking into it.
Yeah, but this is like the United States government looking into the prospect of total nuclear war with Russia. It's not something they want to happen, but it's something they can see happening.
But this is where conspiracy theories come from.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So, again, Google seems to show up a lot. So in 2016...
I wonder why.
Yeah. In 2016, Google releases a host of neuro-linguistic machine learning programs, mostly for language and translation.
Oh, yeah. They were
like
heavy
Babelfish
into
and
that.
Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's when, we could first like pull out your phone and beta test the, live translation stuff.
I have had conversations with very foreign men that have come up to our door.
Yeah.
Through that
There you go. In 2017, the concept of the deepfake begins to appear a lot more commonly in the public's consciousness. Yeah, because I recall, like, in 2017, that's when, like, I first started really hearing about the deepfake as a thing and not just some sort of, like, sci-fi thing of, like, well, one day we're going to be able to generate artificial people.
My consciousness of this was a little earlier when when Hollywood first was able to replicate, long dead people like in Forrest Gump and stuff. There was a lot of speculation of how this would,
I remember that. It was in the news and they were talking about how could this be used as a bad thing?
Yeah. Which was, that's what the news loves to do is, take something that, at the time is innocuous and saying, but it could be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in 2018, Illuminati Pirate points out that the vote and view counts across different platforms are overinflated, and that's because there is a lot of bot traffic
now,
on
this is the
social
Facebook
media
stuff, right?
This is Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, you name it.
Okay, where it was like, it turns out like a lot of the votes and shit were just like artificially generated.
Yeah, and if you watch the video
I remember when that happened.
Right, and if you watch the video from the Y-Files about this, he talks about how he could see the data in his videos where the bots will come in, watch like 10 seconds, leave a vote and a comment, and then move on to the next video and that sort of thing.
Right.
Right. That's also playing out with the whole Elon Musk versus Jack Dorsey Twitter feud right now, because, again, there's likely that the most of the users on Twitter are probably bots at this point.
So I don't know how much credit I get on most of them. Like I can't argue that a percentage of them are, but saying that most of them are fake seems a little too, I don't know, sensationalistic.
Well, we are getting close to something called the inversion, which is something I'm going to talk about a lot more in the next episode.
I mean, I can understand where a lot of the traffic is, but it's probably a smaller percentage of registered users.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then we're going to talk about the inversion because that is a thing that these website I don't want to say website designers, but these, I don't know, website scientists, I don't know what to call them, but there's this fear of this thing called the inversion. I don't know. I'll have to think. Like I would say probably just data scientists, but the fear of this thing called maybe not a fear, but this idea of the inversion, where there's going to be a tipping point where at some point most of the internet traffic that we see on these kind of networks is going to be specifically like artificial, like bots and that sort of thing that are using the features that you would associate with humans.
So, I mean, I think it comes down to money. I mean, we could talk about it more, I guess, when you get to that. But, it'll come down to money, and when it becomes profitable for the websites to filter that stuff, they will.
Well, and the thing is, it's not necessarily profitable for them to filter it because, again, those inflated view counts.
Well, so I think it will be because as advertisers become more savvy to this stuff, they'll not want to pay for bot clicks because bot clicks make them no money.
But think about the companies that run the ads. Like Facebook and Google are like the two biggest providers of advertisement services. So that's
they provide the ads, but they have to have someone to pay for the ads. And like I say, when Doritos realizes that their $50 million of Google ad revenue is not, seeing any returns because 90% of their views are bots, they're going to start not paying Google anymore until Google cleans up its bot problem.
Right, but that's the kind of important thing about that 2018 discovery about like the overinflated thing. So like there's all this is playing out. Like again, we're dealing with a lot of subjects here that we're barely scratching the surface of them.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that I think eventually the money's going to dry up when it becomes realized and provable.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, naturally, the conclusion that Illuminati Pirate draws here is that the government is utilizing artificial intelligence to exert control of the population through corporate contractors, which doesn't sound overly crazy as far as conspiracy theories go.
And it's certainly making me want to build a bunker and drop off the grid. This is really just unsettling stuff when you get down to it and just like think about it from... when you just hear it, it is disturbing.
I can say I don't think any of the things are beyond the pale. I just knowing what I know, it seems like some of the things are a little unlikely at the current time. I can't say they're not going to happen. They just right now don't seem like they're technologically or, I guess just technologically possible because AI is not that advanced.
But that's the thing I think that Illuminati Pirate is kind of getting at and why the theory kind of takes off is because, like, as technology increases, these things have more and more of a chance to happen.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, no doubt, but I just don't think they've happened yet, and we can't really predict what self-correcting measures, like I said, the money problem will take on them.
Well, let's go ahead. I'm moving on to like what is kind of our third act here. We're going to start wrapping up everything so far. So
yeah, go ahead. I'll stop interrupting.
No, it's great. No, this has been a very fun conversation. But
I don't want to get in the way.
I want to wrap up with a bit of exploration about some of the reality of these ideas that help support the idea of like an AI-controlled dead internet.
Okay, let's do that.
So let's talk about the idea of fake people, which was, an element of the science Illuminati Pirate discussed in his thread.
Yes.
So we are familiar with the concept of deep fakes.
Absolutely. This is the AI-generated stuff where you put one person's face on another.
Well, not entirely AI-generated.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Again, like we're splitting a lot of hairs here, but that's
don't split hairs on me, motherfucker.
You don't got many left. Okay. So.
Oh, fuck you. Wow.
No, dude, I'm balder than you. So
okay, that's fair. Yeah, but my hair's thinning and like I can see my scalp.
Oh no.
I know. I'm so sad.
So obviously, like these,
balding. I'm gonna be the critic.
Okay, so anyway, these deep fakes have been showing up more and more, and we could easily explore deep fakes as an episode, especially if you want to dip into that conspiratorial well.
Which we may.
Yeah. A deep fake is generally created through a combination of human effort and machine learning, and to a large degree, it takes human input to make a successful deep fake.
Indeed.
Yeah, so even AI-generated images, such as composite avatars used for sock puppets and bot accounts, require an element of human curation. After all, someone has to be able to throw out the ones with the extra ear, eyes, or strange neck folds.
Unless you're lizard people.
Right. But it can be scarily effective, such as with the case of Adobe's project Voco, which allows you to dynamically edit transcribed audio and then play back that transcription with a sound alike.
Yeah, okay, so Clark is using this stuff that you're talking about to make ads for the station with celebrity voices, which is all fun and everything. It's cute until it isn't.
Right. So, very much like today, you could, say, create a deep fake with Vladimir Putin and use Project Voco to edit the audio, and through a combination of the deep fake audio and the deep fake visuals, create what is a very effective looking way to destabilize a government, which that was a thing that was a concern around the start of the war in Ukraine, because there was a video that was floating around where it was like, was this a deep fake or not?
Yeah. And just, I mean, we've got an ad on the station right now that is Dr. Phil talking about how great Deviant Behavior Radio is. So,
Yeah, I mean, so I think there's still tells right now in it.
Yes.
Right
but
now.
It's definitely close to the point that where it'll be seamless. And that is definitely a scary prospect of not knowing what's real and what's not. I mean, could you imagine a world where, say, a politician, I won't name names, but some politician, there's something, something gets found or released where they say some really egregious shit, and then they actually said it, but they just go on and say, oh no, that's a deep fake. I never said that. That's just, that's fake news because that's just something someone created.
Now that fake news wouldn't be a clue.
No, not at all.
Into the politician you're talking.
No, not at all. I'm just hypothetically spitballing.
Just spitballing, right?
So they could say the worst shit ever, and when it doesn't play with their
demographic
base, they just say, oh well, I never said that.
Right. Now, the dead internet theory is predicated on a combination of AI and government and corporate influence to generate these sorts of fake people, and this seems reasonable.
It seems reasonable, except that level of coordination is a little dubious to me.
Yeah, I totally get that, but do I believe the NSA has a bunch of people in a basement churning out fake avatars to get people to buy more iPhones? Not so much, but I do think this is stuff that is currently being experimented with by governments and by private companies.
I kind of believe it, judging by some of the interactions I've had lately on social media. I hate to say it.
Those are just dumbos. But, I mean, so my point is also, it doesn't take AI to do this. I mean, look at what's suspected that Russian and Chinese operatives have done, for our elections.
Oh, right. God,
well, you don't need AI to really fuck with a internet presence or a
right. But where the AI where the AI comes in here is a sense of scale. You still need that human factor to go through again all the little fake avatars that are generated with the extra ears or the funky mouth. But again, it's able to process so much of this stuff that it becomes this torrent of...
Well, so I think that makes sense for Americans, but when you look at Russia or China, they just have so many people on the payroll, and they don't have to pay that much for them.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
they just have a lot more internet operatives to coin a term I can't think of any good term for.
Well, yeah, like click farms and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But what is a human but also like a meat machine, right?
Yeah.
It's still like I wouldn't say they're an artificial intelligence, but it's still like something that is creating this cycled, repetitious internet.
They're using automated tools to do this, but AI would basically... What I would think when someone's saying AI, they means unsupervised.
Well, and spoiler alert, I think that's the future of this stuff when we talk about episode 2.
No kidding. I mean, that's, of course, the end game, but...
Right. So, the real pants-shitting implication of something like this is to think about what might happen when an AI gets so good at these sorts of tasks that the human factor is reduced to little more than someone who initially activated the thing. At least these are just images and sounds that we can suss out, right?
Yeah. I mean...
It's not like realistic, algorithmically generated conversations are a thing that can be seen, right?
Now, have you ever been in a situation where you had to chat with someone on tech support or customer service chat, like in an actual chat window? I'm not convinced those are people.
Well, at least like some of it's probably, some sort of scripting language. I wouldn't call it AI because AI requires a certain weighted algorithm, but it's definitely, they're definitely like one person. The chatbot or chatbot, but the chat support thing is interesting because it's usually one person monitoring several streams at once because that's, that's the most efficient way. Because think about it, in a call center, that one person's connected to one other person. Well, when you can make that one person connect to 20, 10, 7 other people, that's a lot more efficient. You get more bang for your buck on that, one meat bag. But, and of course some of that is automated because, why wouldn't you? You got some, some form of automation. Of course you'd automate that shit. Just like the same way the call center has the automated, menu systems and hold and all that. But
it's a baby step to something bigger, though.
Well, yes. And as soon as they can have a completely, automated pseudo AI system do, all your level 1 call support, that's going to happen, of course. And that's also something that, for a long time, people have been saying, the robots are coming for your jobs, right? For like menial jobs. It turns out menial jobs require a lot of brain power and coordination. The AIs are first coming for our white collar jobs. A lot of day traders are starting to be replaced with AI because you think about it, an AI, a janitor AI has to both think and do, has to physically move around its, world. Turns out physically moving around the world is a lot harder than we expected it to be. But a day trader AI, all it has to do is fuck with data all day.
Right.
And
there's also, I saw an article the other day. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it was an article about like how with experiments with artificial AI that are supposed to do tasks to get to a reward state, that they would find loops to get to that reward state and not have to do the initial task, which that's also very interesting to me.
Oh, I remember seeing a article about early genetic algorithms that were set to run on. Okay, so they were set to run on a chip called an FPGA, which is a field programmable gate array. You can think of it as a silicon chip version of a program. It's just a bunch of gates, which are, the basic part of a processor or something like that. But you can, via software, program this chip to be whatever kind of chip you need it to be. It's not going to be the fastest, but it is a very general purpose chip. And so they created a genetic algorithm. With genetic algorithm is basically you take, a couple of different programs and you see which one's the best, and the best ones you basically breed. You take aspects from each of them and cross-pollinate them and see which one of the children are the best. And you just keep doing that over and over again, automated, until you come up with a design that the person may not have come up with, but actually runs better than the initial starting programs. Well, these genetically algorithms, after several generations, maybe even hundreds of generations, they found they were working way better than the hand-coded versions. But then when they put that version of the algorithm on another test rig, well, it wouldn't work. It's like, why isn't this working? They should be. It turns out that the genetic algorithm has started using side channels that were not actually data channels. Like it was using, like, say, the grounding plane of the test rig, which wasn't the same between the two, even though the chips were the same. Not every little detail was exactly the same, so it had become tailor-made to only work on that one setup. And even when that was almost exactly the same, say it was a different computer and just something was just a little different to where it just wouldn't run.
That's wild.
It's just, it's wild that you get these, kind of workarounds.
I think that gets at that heart of the fear of this dead internet theory, because like when you hear stuff like that, the idea of a artificial intelligence eventually just kind of like replicating and replacing people on the internet.
Yeah,
like it feels realistic. Like we talk a lot about like really out there stuff on the show, but like this is like some of the scariest stuff that I think we've talked about.
It's conceivable.
Well, yeah, it's not only conceivable. Look, I'm not arguing that any of this stuff can't happen. I'm just arguing that it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
I'm not going to sit here and say this isn't going to happen. Although some of it I think could be like self-regulated because, by the end of it all, it has to make money if you're talking about a corporation, it has to make money, either be via ads or government contracts. Well, which the government surveillance stuff and all, they're going to pay for that. So whatever. But I'm just saying that it can happen. Hopefully it doesn't.
Right. And maybe the theory is that we're in those baby steps towards it right now. But
true. That I won't argue with.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about algorithmically generated content on social media. Mm-hmm. So we already know a lot about how replies on social media are a crapshoot as to whether or not they come from like a human or not, with like bots. Twitter bots have grown fairly convincing as, and this is my hot take, conversational discourse on social media has gone down the toilet.
You know what? That does make me wonder if anyone thinks I'm a bot.
Hey, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, I think you're... I don't know. Maybe? I don't know.
I can't think I'm a bot.
I'm sitting across from you, and I don't know if I can't prove that you're not a bot.
Well, here's the thing, and this is a good point. You know what my favorite Twitter account from the Supernatural Selection account is? UFO bot.
Oh, yeah.
All it does, it is a bot that posts coherent sentences about UFOs and posts just general shit about UFOs.
I mean, because there are those bots that, like, obviously they're program bots that run scripts. Like you mentioned commissions, and all of a sudden it's like 50 bots that are like, "Hey, I offer commissions. Go ahead and DM me." We know about those.
Or the like NFT bots that I've seen around. That if you say anything, even bad things about crypto or NFT, they start trying to scam you, trying to catfish you into a NFT scam.
But, there are those replies where it's like, no, this feels like it's not a real person, but it's a very lucid reply. So, I think you're more likely to find someone who can disagree with you amicably and not call you a dickhead than you are to see proper punctuation in many tweets. Again, a lot of this comes from, like, the shorthand of the way people communicate on the internet. In the Y-Files video that I mentioned earlier, there's a great point about like Twitter bots and how they kind of have this kind of standard internet speak, lowercase, no periods, kind of has the same kind of cadence and everything like that, which, it's hard to tell. Either this could be a real person, but there are people on my timeline that I follow that I believe are human, but also write like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, we could still tell most bot responses from people, right? But the line is growing blurrier and blurrier on, like, high-traffic social media websites. We're talking about, like, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, pretty much 90% of the internet for the layman.
Again, we are talking about an internet that's very similar to when you used to get on America Online.
So in that regard, I just want us to take a moment to check out the subreddit simulator.
Oh no. What is this?
This is a fun one. So this is a subreddit that uses AI, well, maybe not AI, but a computer algorithm to generate dynamic posts and comments based on algorithmic scraping of the biggest subreddits on the platform. And the results can be scary. A lot of it's nonsensical, but the way that the cadence of the conversations goes is very eerie.
So it says it's using GPT-2, which is, a trained AI algorithm. So I'm calling it AI is not beyond the pale.
Yeah. So, but again, it's like if you look, like for example, what is on your front page? Do you have Pope Francis to appear in J.J. Abrams' Star Wars Episode 9?
No.
As one of your top posts, because that's what I have.
Hang on.
I see that in I see that in there.
Yeah. Pope Francis
okay. I see that.
So again, read the first reply. I think you might have it. He's a big fan of George Lucas and is known to have helped design certain parts of the new trilogy, so I imagine he'll be appearing in a lot of scenes as well. Just this is complete nonsense, but the way it reads...
No, it all reads, this is bothersome.
And then one of the posts, below it, it's the Pope, the movie. Right? And it's just someone making like a funny little Reddit joke. So again, like there are these moments where like obviously the cracks show up, like, but there are other times where like the reactions are very scarily realistic. Like someone posting, like a bot posting, "Holy shit, you're right. The Pope is going to appear in an episode of Star Wars?" ? It's just it's eerie, isn't it?
So I don't know. I'm reading these.
Some of them don't work, but a lot of them are.
Well, I would say 90% of them aren't working for me. Like, well, he's been in some major Hollywood movies. No, he hasn't.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still a coherent sentence.
Here's
you have
the
the
Pope,
context.
the movie. The Pope, the movie.
Yeah, no,
the
that's
Pope,
the one where I
movie.
was like, this is the bot kind of fucking up, or the
Right.
bots.
But like, say you weren't aware of any of this stuff.
There's also some bot that basically is programmed to make links, and I guess hoping that people don't click links, because you click link, it's just a dead end. But it's
right.
www.theverge.com numbers Pope Francis film Star Wars Episode 9, which, I guess that could be a valid tactic, and a kind of, propaganda tactic. Just spew out, credible seeming links, even though they don't go anywhere, hoping that a large percentage don't click it. Just say, "Oh, well, The Verge said it. Obviously, that must be true," without clicking the link, because nobody clicks links anymore, right?
Right. So again, this is like, obviously we can see that like at some of these just do not work. But when you see the ones that feel real, I think it helps kind of clarify this anxiety around this idea of an AI on the internet.
Yeah, people are playing with it, but I just don't see any credible, evidence that this is. Wow, reading some of these is just hilarious.
Yeah, like these are really funny. Here's a joke. Here's a joke. Two men are driving through a forest when they bump into a deer. They stop and get out of the car and start approaching the deer when one of them sees a stick sticking out of the deer's side. The other man says, "What the hell is that?" The first man replies, "It's a stick I saw sticking out of the deer." The second man says, "No, it's a deer I saw sticking out of the deer." Like, again, it's like it's the cadence. The punchline makes no sense.
Worked.
Yeah.
So, I mean, while my problem is that a lot of this is just still nonsense that I don't really see in most internet discourse.
Right.
But it makes sort of sense, but it doesn't make topical sense. Like there are sentences that are grammatically understandable, but in the context of the whole thread, they don't make sense.
Right. And it still troubles me. And like sometimes I read one of these things and I'm like, it sounds like that could have been written by someone.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it just comes back to me believing it's not there yet.
Yeah. So, my last point here, because we're getting ready to kind of close this out, is regarding the idea of the DARPA LifeLog. It strikes me that such a system is actually in place, and we can see it in action in China. Have you two heard of the social credit system?
Yes. Now, Mike, do you remember that guy that was going around disproving the Chi martial artists in China, the actual MMA fighter guy?
Yeah.
Okay. His social credit score in China has dropped so low, he can't legally take trains or planes to matches, and he's having to drive. It is deeply frightening how little he can do now because the state backs the Chi people. The Tai Chi people.
Well, yeah, that's because it's all tied up in their, heritage.
And, I know.
China is awesome. But so that's,
because I just saw a video where they were talking to him, and he was talking about, my life is fucking ruined. I'm not going to stop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, that's just a particular fact. Damn it, can't think of the term.
You okay? You have a stroke there for a second?
No, it's a particular facet. That's what I'm looking at of China. Okay. I mean, yes, there's no doubt that other places have, and it's a very simple, the DARPA LifeLog is kind of a simple idea. You just, it's something that pretty much, every MMO does, like for their players. It's just, it's data points about their whole, interaction with, a certain system. And it's kind of inevitable, I guess, when you start thinking about a system whose lifeblood is data.
Yep. So I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I would like to talk about this as it's another episode, especially if we go with that kind of conspiratorial element of it.
Sure.
But I didn't mean to cut you off there. But
it's okay. We're already running long. So.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Holy crap! So okay, we're moving to the end here. So
you should have known when you were starting to talk about internet stuff, I'd have a little bit to say about it.
Oh yeah, no, I expected that. I just didn't expect you to have so much. No, I'm kidding. Now, we've mentioned bots quite a bit so far, and there's a lot more to it, but I'm going to be focusing on that subject more in a future episode. The artificial intelligence component of all this goes a little deeper than I can comfortably deliver in this episode, especially with all the mic interjections.
Yes.
I also believe it has a connection to another unsavory element of the internet weirdness that I'll get to in that episode as well. I want to tackle bots in particular for a few reasons, namely because I think that if we were talking about AI, then we should consider the increasing role of traffic and of bots and how bots can potentially replicate. So next time we tackle this subject, we're going to talk about this idea of the inversion. Now, what I want to do here, however, is leave you with a theory that I'm building that is based on the larger dead internet theory. When we next tackle this subject, I want to explore the idea that the internet is not dead, really, but is infected with a cancer, and that cancer is taking over.
That's a very good way to think of it, I think.
And that's where we're ending on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will hold off then for the next time.
No.
I think
I'm giving you a hard time, my dude. I'm giving you a hard time.
I mean, I'm just saying, I think, I've said what we've talked about now. I think I've said my piece about.
Well, I'm going to be very interested to see your impressions on some of these videos for children that I'm going to be talking about.
I know episode. About those videos, and those are worrisome.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've got some questions. I think we have enough time if we keep the answers kind of brief.
Okay.
Because we're at about 2 hours.
Whoopsie
doodle. So, question 1 from Ghost Forge, because it's not a question series unless we start with Ghost Forge. If dead internet is real, how long do you think it'll be before the bots either hive mind into sapience or begin interacting with each other on their own initiative, kickstarting an emergent culture? Also, will Pope Sexfucker be their king? You were Pope sex fucker, Mike.
I hopefully could be the AI king, but I think they'd be both smarter and dumber than that.
How long? I say within 10 years. 10 years, we'll have a sapient hive mind of bots that are talking to each other.
I think Sapiens has way too many problems for any, current technology to really replicate.
This is just me guessing.
I'm going to be optimistic and say within a century, like provided we can figure out a way to power a computer system that's complicated enough. And that's our main problem right now is we just cannot generate the power needed to do that sort of process.
He's saying the bots just basically
become a
hive mind and become sentient. So here's my thing is I think that it really takes, you look at the most powerful single computers we have, they don't even come close to, replicating all the neurons of our rat's brain. Mm-hmm. Or I think they recently may have done that. But that's still an order of magnitude less sophisticated than, human brain. Plus, there's also all these interactions we don't understand yet. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to be brief here, but not mention quantum effects that may or may not happen inside.
Well,
neurons.
You just mentioned them,
but I'm going to say it's going to take better hardware before we get there.
Give me a timeline. Just give me a amount of time. Century, 2 centuries, 1,000 years.
At least 20, 30 years. At the low side.
Okay.
Just because we're just now starting to have, our quantum computers right now are at the level that, say, an IBM mainframe was in the 80s or 70s.
Okay.
So, given accelerated, progression that we have now, I'd say a couple of decades at least.
Okay. So our next question is from Sam. Sam says, since Ghost took the safe for work slot, would the dead internet theory being real hurt or help the porn industry, and why? I'm going to go with hurt because,
AIs don't jack off.
Well, Midjourney, the image generating AI bot. Well, Clark typed in sexy sex, sexing sex, and he just got this picture that looks like 2 greased up naked dudes, but it's like everything looks like it might be an orifice or an ear. So I don't think it's going to help for a while.
David, got a thought?
So like if say for an example, an AI is able to develop tools, like I'm sure we maybe have seen like a CGI generated video of an Overwatch character giving it to another Overwatch character probably at one point.
I'm not saying I've seen that, but I've seen that.
Right, but now imagine if and this is kind of what I'm going to get into in the next week, the next episode that we do on this, is that like, imagine if the AI is able to use those tools and start creating content now with with renders that are realistic enough and that sort of thing. I could see like a boom of AI generated pornography or something like that.
And there would be a market for it because...
So here's my thing. It's like, you say help when we talk about the porn industry. We talk about like for-profit porn industry or just porn in general.
I don't know. It doesn't say. So let's go with since it's an industry. Let's go with for-profit.
I think if the dead internet is real, the porn would basically be our bread and circuses. Therefore, it would hurt the porn industry because the AI is just going to give us all this great AI generated porn for free to placate us. Give us any, porn, like have like, trying to think of names here.
Well, let's
insert hot female celebrity pegging hot male celebrity with a strap on.
Okay. Okay, fair.
And just give it all those permutations for free, so we don't do anything else but look at the porn.
Yeah. Okay. Well, our next question is from Kick-Assatron. And this is our last question. What's the real difference between us talking to an AI versus a real person? I'm just going to say word salad.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you on that one.
I mean, it depends. Are you talking about from like telling the difference, or philosophically, what's the difference?
I'm going to go with telling the difference, because that's the real difference. Is just a coherent conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you can even hold coherent conversations with some AI depending on its, training, but you still are going to be able to ask it questions where it's not going to give you it's going to give you a coherent answer, but it's going to not be a understandable or correct answer. Like if you asked it, what does losing a loved one feel like? Mm-hmm. I mean, who knows? I don't know what it would answer, but I don't think it would be very right. I mean, it basically comes down to the freaking Blade Runner test.
The Voight Comp test?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's fair.
I
David?
mean,
sorry, Mike, I interrupted you.
I think I was done. I was pretty much done.
And I kind of agreed with you there, Kevin. But, I think the answer is like both of you.
Yeah, I mean,
both of what you're saying.
But, they can string together words pretty prettily, but, they don't know the meaning behind what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they say. All right, well, that's...
Oh, I know the real reason, the real way to tell the difference.
What?
Well, no, it's the internet. Asking them if they're racist isn't going to help.
No. What if you ask it if there's stairs in its house?
Was Hitler right? Well, you can't tell.
That's not gonna tell you nothing. They're either a bot or a 4chaner.
Ooh, I know. Ask them if they like Mark Zuckerberg. Because the AI is going to say yes, and a real person is going to say no. Because I've never met anybody that says they like Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, a bot would like him because he's a robot.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
A bot's going to love Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And a real person
I'm agreeing with you.
No one likes Mark Zuckerberg. That is actually human.
All right. Well, that's it for this week, guys. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with the Week in Weird, and then we'll move on to some fun topics. So, if you want to find out more about the site, and we now have a news blog thing that will be updated at least weekly.
A news blog?
A news blog. That may be what we call it, actually. The news blog. Head over to supernatpod.rocks. You can also find a link to our Discord. You can find us on Twitter at supernatpod.
Where we're bots.
Where we're bots, yes. Mm-hmm. You can find David at HP Comic on Twitter. That's HPKOMIC.
And he's a bot.
And he's a bot. And you can find Mike the bot here every week with us.
Because I'm a deep fake.
Mike is a deep fake bot. Mm-hmm. He's not even a real robot. He's a deep faked bot. So
I'm a deep fake of a bot.
Yes. Absolutely.
Wow. So that fractal recessive bots.
I thought you were going to say Recessa Annie for some reason.
Recursive. That's the word I was looking for. Fractal recursive bots, where it's just bots all the way down.
Fractal Recessa Annies. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening. We will see you next week. So until then, stay safe and stay frosty. Goodbye. Moo.
I love you, my robot overlords.
Beep boop.
Beep boop.
I'm just saying that so they don't kill me. They'll kill you, but they'll spare me.
The RG bots are